Notre Dame football just wrapped up its fall camp scrimmage, and we spoke to Marcus Freeman immediately afterwards. I'm Jack Sobel, he's Tyler James, and we just got a ton of Notre Dame football personnel updates. Starting with, I think the most important thing has to do with the wide receiver room. We got an update on Quincy Porter's health, and it does not seem like the Ohio State transfer boundary receiver is all that close to returning.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman said he had a procedure of sorts. He didn't give much details about what that
said it was like a minor procedure on his knee that they hope will expedite his process.
Yeah, and so the fact that it needs expediting is probably indicative of where he's at. We've mentioned throughout camp that it doesn't look like he's necessarily on track to be available for the season opener. So we'll see what that timeline ends up being now with this added procedure, but sounds like there's something they feel like is going to make it improve rather than make it longer. So we'll see what that looks like. And certainly the wide receiver position group has been one that we've paid a lot of attention to this fall, with a lot of guys needing to step up. And Marcus Freeman talked a lot about those guys who have really proven themselves this camp and are stepping up as viable options.
And for good reason, right? It's a swing position group on this team, and with the passing game expected to be a significant part of this offense, more so than it has been in the past with year 2 of CJ Carr. I mean, they need the receivers to step up. Marcus Freeman said, in Porter's place, I think we can both expect Micah Gilbert to start at the boundary receiver position. Freeman said Gilbert has had a great camp, which, to be fair, is what they expected from the junior. I think he's moved us a lot with his performance this offseason. He's gotten a little bit more agile, consistent hands, worked on his releases. Going against Leonard Moore, the best cornerback, arguably best defensive player in practice every day, will do that. Elsewhere on the boundary, which again, that's Porter's position, Jerome Bettis Jr. has had a great offseason. I think he's someone who might not have attracted too much attention beyond being Jerome Bettis' son as a recruit, but he's someone who's really made a move this offseason. Elijah Burris, he said, was getting some work on the boundary. Devin Fitzgerald, of course, despite missing a day of practice to induct his dad into the Hall of Fame, is someone who they really like at that spot. Elsewhere, Matt Jeffrey is doing a great job, the two-sport star midfielder on the lacrosse team. Logan Saldate made a great catch today, Freeman said. Bubba Frazier, the true freshman, we've seen a lot of good things from him. So they got a lot of names that they think can contribute at the wide receiver position, but the top 4 we know perfectly well are going to be some combination of Jordan Faison, Jaden Greathouse, Mylan Graham, and Micah Gilbert.
Yeah, and speaking of depth, Marcus Freeman was asked specifically what he felt were the deepest positions on this team as they wrap up camp, and he identified defensive tackle and linebackers. I don't think those are necessarily surprising based on what we've seen. I think especially linebackers, we know that they've got 4 guys that have started and can be contributors, and obviously they're trying to grow that to maybe even 5 with Madden Faremo. And then the defensive tackle one is something that we've seen some this camp, but I feel like going into the offseason, that was like, okay, what is Notre Dame going to do at defensive tackle? And it seems like they've made strides there. There's not strides there just with transfers coming in, but also someone like Armand Mukum, who I feel like has been, to me, like the surprise player of camp. What are your thoughts on Armand Mukum and his rise?
Well, Freeman said that there are like 6 guys who could realistically play for this team at defensive tackle. Almost as many, I think, could start, is what he seemed to imply. And Mukum is absolutely one of them, which is not something that we would have expected at the beginning of the offseason. He just looks not necessarily bigger, but just I think physically he's better. He's a little more agile, more athletic. His get off looks better. Mm-hmm. He looks a lot stronger, which I think is a big thing for him. Just a lot of good weight, not a lot of bad weight on Armand Mukum right now, and that's reflected in his performance. Obviously, Francis Brew, Tion Gray, the transfer from Pitt and Oregon, respectively. Jason Onye, Elijah Hughes, Sean Civillano, Cole Mullins are both guys who have been involved in game plans at Notre Dame. A very deep position, obviously. The linebackers, that's very much to be expected.
Right.
Couple updates on some position battles that we've been monitoring. I'll start with some of the expected ones, running back and tight end. Freeman said that while their preference isn't to play 5 running backs, they have 5 running backs who could very well play this year. Javian Osborne, who I think to this point we've been considering the 5th, given that he missed spring practice with an injury, and Jonas Walton has played really well. He said he had a great day today, right. So you'll see a lot of Aeneas Williams, Kedron Young, Nolan James Jr., maybe Walton and Osborne down the line, but that room is very deep. Tight end, we can expect to see a lot of Cooper Flanagan. He called him an alpha in response to your question about the tight ends room. That did use that word, but he said, man, that guy's an alpha male, especially in the blocking game. James Flanagan, you can expect a lot of him too. He mentioned Jack Larson and Ty Washington as guys they might try to mix in. The big position battle we are monitoring right now is the backup quarterback spot. Freeman said he has not named a backup quarterback. He would like to at some point very soon, but does not know exactly when that's going to happen.
Yeah, he said that in a perfect world they'd watch the film from today and be able to name who that was, but that he's not certain that they're going to be ready to do that. And so that's not surprising given the inexperience of the guys that they're dealing with. I feel like they're going to need as much time to see what these guys can do to be able to make a decision on who's the number 2. And then as we've talked throughout the preseason, that the number 2 for the opener at Wisconsin against Wisconsin in Wisconsin will not necessarily doesn't have to be the same number 2 the rest of the season because of guys jockeying for that spot and figuring out how to get their feet set under them as they learn the offense and learn what it's like to be a Notre Dame quarterback. Boundary cornerback was another position, or not boundary, field cornerback was a position that Marcus Freeman was also asked about, and he said they haven't really wrapped that up yet. DJ McKinney is probably going to be the starter. That's my opinion. But DJ McKinney and Jaden Sanders have been battling there, and Sanders is a guy that's moved around a bit. They play him at nickel sometimes too, and so Sanders is making himself as versatile as he can be in his first year at Notre Dame after transferring from Michigan, and so that's something to watch as the preseason wraps up.
Yeah, it seems like they recruited one more starting caliber cornerback out of the transfer portal than they needed, which, to paraphrase Marlon Stanfield for all you Wire fans out there, sounds like one of them good problems that Notre Dame has plenty of in fall camp this season. But no, they've moved Sanders at nickel and at field corner. He played some boundary in the spring game against Gilbert. Really played well at all 3 spots, so he's someone they can move around and expect to be very involved this year. The offensive line, once again, we are in fall camp, and Notre Dame has not settled its 5 offensive linemen. That has been the case in every fall camp since I have arrived. Injuries obviously have a lot to do with that. Charles Jagasaw, we're not expecting back anytime soon at the moment. Matty Augustine broke his foot during fall camp. He's no longer a factor at right guard. Their options seem to be, so first of all, we know left tackle Will Black, left guard Anthony Knapp, right tackle Gerby Lambert. Those are set in stone. Book it. The options at center and right guard seem to be Joe Otting at center, Ashton Craig at right guard, or Ashton Craig at center and Sullivan Absher at right guard. Marcus Freeman did say that Craig has not been 100% cleared yet, so in theory it could be Joe Otting at center and Sullivan Absher at right guard, but they do hope that Craig will be cleared before the start of the season. There's a lot of factors they have to weigh when determining who's going to start on the O-line.
Yeah, pretty much what we heard from Joe Rudolph when we talked to him earlier in camp. Yeah. So they're still trying to figure that out. And obviously it's a little more complicated when Ashton Craig's coming back from injury, especially if you're going to move him to a different position of, okay, what kind of physical demands will that be compared to what he was used to doing at the center job. But that's something we'll keep an eye on. I did want to mention Junior Tui Halamaka. Marcus Freeman was asked about him specifically, given some of the court rulings that have made some guys in the 2022 recruiting class still eligible to play. And Marcus Freeman said that it's just too late in the process for Notre Dame to feel comfortable with trying to get him into school, get him up to speed with the team, and maybe unfair to some guys that are working their butts off and have been throughout the offseason and in the preseason camp. And so the report last night was that Junior Tui Halamaka intends to enter the transfer portal, and so we'll see what ends up with his final year, if he still has it or not. It's so hard to keep track of with all the court rulings, but it does not sound like it will be at Notre Dame.
No, Freeman confirmed that today, and I think for a variety of reasons, it's a decision that makes sense. I think you can never have enough edge rushers. And Tui Halamaka, obviously somebody who's very highly regarded. We shouldn't let that go unsaid. He's very highly regarded in this building and on this campus. He played a critical role in Notre Dame's run to the national championship game back in 2024, but I think he might be less necessary right now than they thought he would be entering fall camp. Keon Keeley, Freeman said, is someone who's had a really good camp and who's really made strides since the spring. Rodney Dunham is someone, a true freshman 5-star who they think will contribute. Logan Thomas, Freeman acknowledged that the big issue with him has always been getting that weight up, but he's still someone who could play in that DPR designated pass rusher role. And obviously you have the starters in Boubacar Traore and Bryce Young. So the question is, like, how much would Notre Dame need Tui Halamaka? And I think the answer is less right now than it would have been before fall camp. And beyond that, like, it's probably not worth the stress and the effort to worry about the legal battle as you get into the season.
Yeah, whoever would be in charge of having to monitor that is probably relieved that they don't have to monitor that moving forward, because it seems like a nightmare to deal with. But best of luck to those guys that are still trying to get one more year out of college football if they can. And we're getting ready for college football here in South Bend, and camp is wrapped up. So what do you expect we'll learn in the next week or two before the season opener, Jack? Is there anything we're going to get real insight into, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think Eric Hansen, Mike Singer will come out with some intel in the next couple of days on what actually happened during today's scrimmage. I certainly look forward to that on blueandgold.com. Beyond that, like, they'll release a depth chart probably the Tuesday during game week, because the game is on a Sunday. So we'll get plenty of updates personnel-wise from the official depth chart. Beyond that, like, it was a very minutia-based press conference, which I think is the sign of a team that you expect to be very good? Because a lot of what we're talking about, like defensive tackle depth, the backup quarterback, the 6th and 7th wide receivers, it's a rich man's problem. I think is the point.
Yeah, and that's where Notre Dame is right now. Marcus was asked about, like, how do you make sure you handle people talking about you being national championship contenders, and obviously that's what
favorites even.
Yeah, and Notre Dame wants to be that, so it's not something they should be shy about. But I also something Marcus was like, we got to prove that those people are right. Whoever's saying what about us, if they think we're going to be the national champions, we gotta go out and prove it. It doesn't matter what someone says about us; it matters what we do on a day-to-day basis to make that happen. And so Notre Dame's working on that, and the expectations continue to rise, I would say, going into this season for Notre Dame, with so much expectations off the disappointment of last season.
And as expectation rises, so does the excitement level for the season. And we are more than excited to cover everything that's going on Notre Dame football-wise on blueandgold.com, leading up to the season opener of the Shamrock Series matchup on September 6th at Lambeau Field. I'm Jack Sobel. He's Tyler James. Check out blueandgold.com for all our analysis, insight from the press conference, and today's scrimmage in the coming days.